I heard the Reeve of Rocky View County speaking this morning. This was kind of a surprise to us. We didn't know that they had engaged in this work. And I heard him speaking this morning, and he said a bunch of stuff that, well, it just isn't true. We've been working on this for 5 years. There has been extensive community and public consultation. There have been multiple scientific studies by outside experts that show that the Springbank Dry Dam is the right choice. And the Reeve says this was sprung on them, no other alternatives were looked at, and that there is no benefit to the county. All of those things are just not false. They're actually deeply offensive. Let's not forget 5 people died in 2013. Let's not forget that there was $6 billion of damage to the city of Calgary. And let's not forget that every single person in this region requires a healthy city of Calgary economy and a healthy downtown Calgary for their own livelihoods. So to play political games this late and to potentially put people's lives and their property and the economy of the country at risk is beyond irresponsible.
How much of a speed bump or a delay would this really cause, though? I mean, the province could just say, yeah, that's a request to halt this project, but we're not going to listen.
Well, I'm calling on the province to be very clear, and I think Minister Mason has been very clear that this is irrelevant and has no bearing whatsoever on their decision-making process. What this is about is politics. There's a provincial election coming, and it's very clear that Rocky View County has allowed itself to become part of that political conversation, and they ought not to. So the number one person we need to hear from today is Mr. Kenney. And we need to hear everybody who wants to be the Premier of Alberta say, we are committed to the science and we're committed to getting the Springbank project done.
Is it irritating for you?
So irritating. There's lots of other things to work on in the world, and I don't need to be going back to people who are terrified every spring and saying, sorry, folks are lying about a project that will protect you.
There was a landowner that spoke today in chambers and said that he doesn't agree that a number of landowners should have to give up their land for a couple of the affluent communities in Calgary.
How about all of downtown Calgary? How about $6 billion in property damage? How about the economic engine of Calgary versus 0 houses and a little bit of land in Springbank?
One of the things they've raised as a reason that this process should be halted or at least slowed down is a lack of consultation with Indigenous communities. What is your feeling on that criticism?
There's actually been a fair bit of consultation with Indigenous communities. It's true that the Tsuut'ina Nation would prefer to have this reservoir on their own lands. There's no geodynamic studies. There's no studies of the morphology of the water. There's no identified location. We're not going to wait 10 years to have this conversation. The scientific studies have been done. Many alternatives were looked at. This is the best alternative. Remember that even the NDP government were elected saying they wanted to look at more alternatives. They didn't really like Springbank. And immediately after being elected, when they saw the work that had been done, they said Springbank is the way to go.
One thing that comes to mind with this whole thing is that weren't we just talking about how we needed to move on to flood mitigation plans on the Bow, and we're back to a situation where we're looking at flood mitigation on the Elbow?
That's right. We have so much work to do on the Bow River. We have so much work to do to keep Calgarians and everyone in Southern Alberta safe. And for us to go back to decisions that have long ago been settled is not at all productive, and it is, as I say, irresponsible in the extreme. What we see are people who never liked this project throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. Well, guess what? The spaghetti's been thrown, none of it stuck.
What's next for you? Do you go to Minister Anderson? Do you go to Premier Notley? Is there anything you can do?
Well, I have to say that Minister Mason is the key guy on this file, and he, even today, has been extraordinarily powerful in his defense of this project. And I'm not worried at all that the provincial government is going to lose its nerve on this project. They are not. But we do have an election coming, and so I'm reaching out to the leaders of every party, to Mr. Mandel, to Mr. Kenney, to Mr. Khan, and saying, I need you today to talk about how you're going to protect Calgary and how you're going to get Springbank built.
Does the county's position jeopardize any potential future negotiations with the city now?
Well, it's very clear that the county is not interested in actually being a good regional player. We have a new Metropolitan Region Board. We're talking about everything from transit to water to regional planning. And to pull a move like this really indicates to me that the county's not serious about that, and I'm going to need to see some real good faith on their part before I'm willing to enter into spending a lot of time and money on negotiations with them.